Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the REDX podcast. My name is Andrew. I will be your host today. I'm super excited for today's episode because we have not one, but two amazing guests joining us. You can see them both there. They are both master trainers for the Floyd Wickman training and coaching program. Please join me in welcoming Mary and Mike Pallin. How you doing today?
Hi.
That's a nifty graphic. I love that thing, Andrew.
Yeah, did you like that? Our nice little video intro. We like
Nice.
to keep things jazzy, that's fun. Well, welcome to the show, both of you. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a lot that we're going to talk about today. It's going to be such an amazing episode because we're going to talk about how you can change your thinking to be a more motivated agent, how you can have more conversations, and then in getting nitty gritty about like developing a niche and really getting into some tactical stuff, some prospecting. So we will get into that in just a moment. Before we do, I just want to talk to our audience. If you're joining us live, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions for these amazing master trainers, please put it in the chat and I will pass that along to them. And we love this to be an interactive show, right? And they've got all the answers. So please chime in, let us know where you're from, say hello, ask those questions. We'll get them passed along. And yeah, that should be good. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Like I said earlier, there's a lot to talk about today. Before we get into the meat of today's podcast, let's do some quick introductions. Mary, how about we start with you?
All right. Well, I'm a little nervous now because Andrew says they have all the answers. So I'm not sure what the questions are going to be.
Did I put you on the spot too much there, Mary? You said that was okay.
I've been working with Floyd Wickman team for years and years. And the reason that I came on board is that he changed my life. I had a lot of energy and a desire to succeed. I was willing to work, but I didn't know how to sell. And the Floyd Wickman program has that all figured out. You don't have to invent dialogue. And so it saved me, caused me to have a very successful real estate career. And it's been an absolute blast, a joy in my life to be able to pay that forward and affect the lives of other people who want that success in real estate, who've got people counting on them to succeed.
Amazing. What a great introduction. Thank you, Mary. Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I started off doing everything that started with S. I was a student, then a soldier, then a singer-songwriter.
Wow.
And then when I ran out of things that started with S, I got into real estate. And that's how I met Floyd Wickman. And like Mary, he changed my life, turned my head around. And over the years, being associated with him, he's created this body of work that helps people get in control of their careers and, by the way, their life as well. And when he retired and turned it over to me, Mary and I have as our mission in life is to preserve that legacy and promote it and expand it and get the word out to people that it doesn't have to be, for a lot of people, a struggle. And that was his experience, that for the first full year of his career, he only closed 3 transactions. And if you're trying to feed a family of 5. So the point Mary made is, if you need to succeed in real estate, we have a way. It might not be the only way, but it's worked for a couple 100,000 different successful real estate agents who've gone through the Floyd Wickman program, and a whole bunch of them who now coach with us to keep that momentum going. So we're thrilled to be here. Andrew, I've heard of the REDX podcast, and to get invited here is like a dream come true for us. So thank you for that. Dream come true. That reminds me of my father. He had 2 dreams. Both of his came true. We lived in New York. He wanted to retire at 55. That was his first dream. And he did. It's a state law. You have to move to Florida. Get out of New York. But his other dream was kind of strange. He said, son, I'd like to send you a postcard. It's my dream in life. Well, I finally got it. He and my mother were vacationing in Europe, and he sent me this postcard. On the back, it was a picture of the Aegean Sea off the coast of Greece. It said, dear son, this is the view from the cliffs the Greeks used to throw their defective children over. Wish you were here. So,
well, mission accomplished, dream come true, both of them.
Yeah.
That's
we're
funny.
glad we're here.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're here too. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I'm just going to basically turn it over to you now. You guys have some amazing training coming our way. So let's start off with this first topic, changing your thinking. Tell us a little bit about that and why it's so important for agents today.
We're in a post-pandemic market, and a lot of people are suffering from what's called doom and gloom. I think they're watching the news too often. And I think economic instability or unpredictability is now a permanent fact of life. And once it gets a hold of you, you can go into a holding pattern and not be able to work your way out of it. So we've got a cure for the doom and gloom to get yourself out of that if that's what's bothering you now.
Well, and look at how the media, who used to sell newspapers with bad news, used to be on TV with bad news, and today is so much more insidious. You know, you open your browser and there's pop-up ads and there's talking heads, and just everywhere around us, people are talking about how bad it is. The rates have gone up. Well, they've come down. Oh no, they've gone up. Or if you ask the average consumer what's going on out there, sellers think they can't sell their house because prices have fallen. We missed the best market ever. We're just going to wait until prices come back. If you ask a buyer what's going on out there, they say, oh my gosh, the rates are so high. The rates are so high. I've been asking audiences, Andrew, what were the rates 100 years ago? By the way, listeners, what were the rates 100 years ago? So everyone come up with a number. You might want to not say it out loud. All right.
Can I guess?
You want to guess?
Yeah, I want to guess.
Out loud? Okay.
30%.
No.
20%.
100 years ago, the rates were 6 to 6.5%.
Okay. That's the same as they are right now. Yeah.
But they're too high.
A little bit high.
No, they're not. In 1971, in the United States, now Canada's a different, they've got their own little rules, but in the United States, in 1971, it was the first time you could get a fixed rate mortgage, a 30-year. Up until then, they were all adjustable. And isn't that funny? Because we think adjustable rate mortgages were invented in the 80s or something, But no, that's the way it always was. And the first adjustable rate, the first 30-year fixed rate, it was in 1971 was 7%. So we're in a great market. If you want to buy a house, you can buy it. If you want to sell a house, you can sell it. We got to quit listening to all that doom and gloom out there. We got to turn the news off. We got to create our own. This is our market. This is our year. We got to be the kind of people that walk around telling people how great it is out there.
If you want it, it's your year. Just like Floyd was our mentor and has been our teacher and partner and friend, he had a mentor as well. You may have heard the name Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
I have. Year mentor protege relationship. And Zig always used to talk about stinking thinking. And that's what we want to get rid of, because as Mary just said, when you get the right historical perspective on, for instance, interest rates, there's a saying, and I know you've heard it, write it down. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So if you've been looking at things doom and gloom wise, you can start to change by getting a broader perspective. As Mary likes to say frequently, take the highest road with the longest view. I think that's great advice. But if you've been hearing there's nothing to buy, do your research. Right. People are listing and selling homes. People are moving. There are still closings. Building is up way over last year right now. So do your research and get the facts before you start spreading doom and gloom, because it isn't all that way.
Right. And people talk absolutes. You've heard it. No one's buying, no one's listing, there's nothing to sell. Those are absolutes, and they're not true. Do the math, for heaven's sakes.
Absolutely. And I love this point of it being all relative, right? Because relative to 2 years ago, maybe it seems a little stressful. It seems a little doom and gloom, but guess what? 2 years ago was an anomaly, and it was a market unlike any we've seen relative to your point, Mary, 100 years ago. It's the same, right? It just don't compare it to the best, compare it to the average. If you have to compare it to everything, or just be here in the now market, right? Just be here right now.
So listeners, raise your hand out there if you've been selling real estate less than 10 years, because it was 2012 11 years ago that we went to 4% and
Mhm.
then lower. So anybody with a decade of experience or less time in real estate is freaked out. Oh my gosh, the market time is 56 days. Yeah, well, you know what? You've never seen that before. But I have, a lot of people have. Anyone that was here 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we had market times at 130 days, 180 days, 105 days, 92 days, 50 days, and you're freaked out. Give me a break. You just
Right.
need skill. You need to be able to prepare your sellers to not expect 14 offers in the first 10 minutes. And we haven't needed that skill for a decade. So yeah, you're freaked out, but hey, that's why we're here, because you're not alone. There's all of us. They're not listing with just you. They're listing with our industry. And we can lift each other toward a more balanced, normalized perception.
So be aware, there are
Yeah.
lots of information sources out there, but there are also a lot of misinformation sources.
Right on.
And
Mhm.
there are clues. And the clues start with what Mary said, the absolutes: no one, nothing, always, never. And when you hear words like that, you're getting misinformation. You're getting bias. You're getting
Right.
people who are there to sell you. See, whoever said ignorance is bliss was trying to sell you something. No,
Absolutely.
get the facts and
Okay.
get a balanced point of view. You've got to insulate yourself from misinformation and prejudice and bias, especially in the information business. Because when you get insulated, that allows you to project the kind of thinking that's positive. If you'd study quantum physics at all, and I don't want to go too far out there, but if you know anything at all about quantum physics, you know that the world we create is a reflection of our thinking.
Hmm.
So watch your thinking, because your thoughts become your words, and your words become your actions, and your actions become your habits, and your habits become your destiny. And it all starts with your thoughts.
I love that. I love that. So part one for this podcast: change your thinking, do your research, avoid absolutes, and avoid the biased misinformation sources of information. What is part two? And I have here, it's all about having more conversations. So let's say an agent is doing really good with this part one, right? They changed their thinking. They've got a positive attitude. They're not afraid to go out and conquer this market. What should they do next? How can they have more conversations?
I am really glad you asked that question, because Floyd created this great body of work and the most notable training program in the history of real estate. You may have heard the word sweat hogs. Now we call it the Floyd Wickman program. But on top of that, we've created a coaching program to help our graduates maintain their momentum. And what I'd like to add is this. If you're sitting there thinking, well, how do they know? What makes them so noteworthy that they can give us advice? I want to tell you, we haven't done the work. Our students, our partners in coaching have done this work. And I'd like you to know, we started coaching in 2009. We have 14 years worth of data. Since then, everyone who's been through the coaching program, all put together, added up, totaled, and divided and averaged out, for 13 years has averaged one listing or sale per person per week.
Wow.
You say that again: one listing or sale per person per week. That's our average production. Obviously, some have done more, some have done less. But if you want to know how we know, it's because of what the people who know the Wickman dialogues and techniques do when they apply them into their business.
So we count conversations.
Yeah.
If you ran a hardware store, you would know how many nuts and bolts you needed to order before the bin was empty. Right. So you keep track of your numbers. And when you keep track of numbers for year after year after year after year, you develop ratios. And so we've been tracking those numbers. And the only way you can hit your goal when you're behind is increase your number of conversations. Everyone's got their own hit ratio, right? So you talk averages in North America, but what's your average? It depends on your skill level, depends on who you're calling, right? Are you calling friends and family? They're going to talk to you. did you just parachute in and you don't know anybody? You're going to have to talk to a lot more strangers to find a listing than if people already know you, like you, and trust you.
So with all of our people, we do this thing called the income to activity converter, because you can't control income. You can't control closings. You can only control your activity. So how much activity do you have to do? The more data you know about your ratios, like how many of these do I need to get one of those? And how many of those do I need to get another one of those? The more you're aware of your ratios, first of all, your activity plan for the week is going to be based on science and not guesswork. And no one's going to be able to talk you out of it if you know, boy, I got to do this if I want to hit my goal. But more importantly than that is, if we didn't need some form of external accountability, people keeping track of us and asking us. I sat with this guy who has 1,000 agents. And I said, how many of them are doing half of your production? Start at the top and work your way down. It was 17 people were doing half his production, which meant 983 are fighting over the other half. And so my next question was, if somebody just asked them this question once a week and they had to answer, how many conversations have you had this week, outgoing, with potential listers or buyers? How many of them, if they just had to answer that question, how many of them would do better? And here was his answer. Probably all of them.
Right.
We all need at least a little bit of that.
Boy, I think that kind of sums it up. That's what accountability is.
Yeah.
We call it responsibility, because accountability is kind of like the boss and the employee, right? You know, you have to be here at 9 o'clock or something. But responsibility is when you say to your coach, to your fellow participants in a coaching program, you know what, I'm going to go after this income goal. And that means I got to make 18 conversations a week. That's kind of the number that we have used as a signpost.
Okay.
And in light of what we expect for 2023, a lot of our students are aiming for a higher number this year. You know, if 18 is what I've normally done, this is the year I double down, go to 25, or I go to 30. And I try and have 25 or 30 conversations. Now, when we count a conversation, it isn't standing in front of a meeting room of, you know, the Elks Lodge and saying, hey, I'm in real estate, don't forget. Right? A conversation is where you say, who do you know who might be thinking about selling? Or how about you, if you're working for sale by owners or expireds, hey, is your house still available? Are you thinking of moving? Or if you're standing in the grocery store line and someone sees the logo on your baseball cap or your jacket and says, oh, are you in real estate? It's you saying, I am. Who's your realtor? Oh, well, be happy to apply for the job.
Right.
Okay. I buy in. I need to have more conversations with prospects. How do I do that? Andrew, I want you to say, hey, Mike, how can I make myself have more conversations? Go ahead.
Hey, Mike, how can I make myself have more conversations? Because I want to close more deals.
Ready? Write this down. You can't. So stop trying. See, if you were going to have more conversations, you'd already be having them. We've discovered the only way you can double or triple your conversations. It's the only thing that's ever worked, no matter what the market was.
Consistently.
Whether it's recessions or stagflation or pandemics, it doesn't matter. This is the only thing we've ever seen that consistently works no matter what the market's doing. Write these three numbers down: 5, 90, 10.
5, 90, 10.
Yeah. You get yourself a prospecting partner and you make an appointment for a 90-minute prospecting session, whether you're door knocking, networking, or phone calling. And for 5 minutes before the 90, you talk to each other. Who are you calling? What's your approach going to be? Then for 90 minutes, you smile and dial and you keep track. How many numbers do I dial? How many people do I actually talk to? And what kind of results did I get? And at the end of 90, you hang up, you call each other, and you compare notes. What did I learn from this prospecting session? And when you know someone else is going through the same misery that you're going through, it makes it easier to show up and actually dial. And by the way, get an auto dialer from REDX and you'll actually dial more numbers without wearing out your finger.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that ratio. And I love how you've kind of made it formulaic, right? This is what, an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all you have to set about, let's say 2 hours for prospecting every day. You warm up by talking to someone, set those expectations. It reminds you of what you want to accomplish. It lets them know what you're going to accomplish so they can hold you accountable. And then you prospect and then you wrap up. It's that easy. I love that.
We actually have bi-coastal 590-10 partners. People all
590-10
Canada doing this. And it's like a magic wand. It doubles and triples the actual number of conversations you have, which leads to, of course,
appointments.
Yeah, and leads, things like that.
No kidding. No
We've
kidding.
got
So
some folks, Andrew, that are doing it on Zoom because they found that, I can wander away. I can go throw my laundry in. But if everyone can see me get up from my desk, that doesn't happen. So we've got several groups that are doing it on Zoom. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
right.
I think we need to move on to
Okay.
step 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Step 3, part 3.
3-part program for overcoming doom and gloom.
I was telling Andrew before we started, this is so hard for us because we know all these techniques and dialogues and we want to share them with you. But that's not our objective today. Our objective today really, and I hope you're catching fire. I hope you're already, your mind is expanding and you're getting jazzed and you're recommitting to your business and to yourself. And that is I'm just so passionate about this message right now. I think if there was ever a time, we're at the beginning of this great year. It is going to be a great year. This is our market. This is our year, and we're not letting anything stand in our way. So it might not be the same as last year. If you made enough money last year and people were calling you, let's pretend that isn't going to happen quite the same. So if last year you did this much business from people that called you, I'm going to try and get both my hands in the camera, right? But this year there's going to be a little bit less. Well, that's why we have number 3, and that's why we're passionate about number 3, because we got a gap to fill this year. We're going to have to do something a little different, something a little extra to make sure you hit that income goal this year. And we called it Form Yourself, Develop a New Niche, a new niche, if you will.
An additional one.
An additional.
Because what comes first? What comes first is your book of business. Mm-hmm. Some people call it sphere of influence. Mm-hmm. It's the people you know.
Yeah.
Who like you, know you, trust you, and respect you, and are willing to do repeat business with you and refer you to their friends and family and neighbors.
And hopefully you have a system for staying in touch with them. And that's one of the things we teach in our program. How do you stay in front of them without being annoying, without corralling them every time you see them? But we're going to trust that you've got that in place and that it's this gap that we got to really fill with our item here at number 3.
If you've got a well-developed book of business, your 200 best referral sources that you mail and you call and you see, it should deliver anywhere from at least a half to almost 80% of your business.
Oh yeah, a lot of our students do most of their business with this.
But you want to augment it because people don't live forever. They move away. So you've got to add new prospects into your book of business. And the first 2 are probably the most obvious, and that's the for sale by owners and the expired listings.
Okay, so develop a new niche means that maybe before you didn't do FSBOs. I don't want to do FSBOs, they're not nice. So you had enough income, you did enough doing other stuff. Well, this is the year you got to stand up and do FSBOs or expireds. And REDX has old expireds. I mean, do people know this, Andrew? Does everybody that's listening know that they can buy a list from you? God, that is so brilliant. You can pick a year, you can pick a zip code or an area or a block area. I don't know how you guys do it exactly, but you can say, I want all the people that were trying to sell their house in October of 2010 when the market sucked and didn't sell. And you will provide for them a list of people that still live in that same house. I mean, my God, is that smart? That is
absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned those as your top 2 for developing a new niche, because those are 2 of our top products and 2 of our top lead types is expireds and for sale by owners. Why? Because they are the lowest hanging fruit. They are the buyers and sellers who are saying, I want to buy or sell a house right now, right? Expireds tried it and their last agent failed them. For sale by owners are trying to do it on their own. They need your help as an
Yes.
agent. They're saying, help me do it.
Help me,
Low
but
hanging fruit, right?
here's our fear. Here's this negative media crap that we deal with all the time. Is, well, but they don't want to pay a commission. Then I'm going to have to go over there and fight with them. I'm not taking less than what I want, what I get from somebody else. No. You need skills. That if you had the skill, what to say, how to say it, what to say when they say all those hesitations that every for sale by owner has, well, you'll list them. We've got a past grad that got 73 listings last year from expireds, and he's using old expireds and new expireds, but he knows what to say.
Right.
So you can buy a list and not know what to say. You need both.
Right.
Buy the list. That's for sure.
Cool.
And while you're going,
how do you really feel about it, man?
While you're going after for sale by owners, go after for rent by owners too.
Good point.
Because those owners might be undergoing some hardship. And there's all kinds of distressed properties now. They're either vacant or they're deferred maintenance or they're pre-foreclosure or here's one, probate. I mean, seriously, are you building relationships with the people who control access to those niche prospects? And probate's a perfect example. Where do you find access to information about homes that are going into probate? Do you have a relationship with those attorneys? Do you have a relationship with the county courthouse where those records are, of course?
And the fun part about probate is that there's right now one of the most common and difficult objections to overcome is, well, there's not enough listings out there for us to buy, right? Well, guess what? Probate, you don't have that issue. You got family members that are ready to unload it, and you cannot worry about that. Yeah.
And the other side of that is divorce, people who are separating. And think about the AAA, and I don't mean the roadside assistance, I mean the American Arbitration Association. These are people who are thinking of separating, get together and hammer out an agreement. And that's what arbitration does. Now, do you also have a relationship with divorce attorneys? Because they can also send you leads and you can reciprocate.
Business people get leads. Well, listen, I think NAR says that an average citizen runs into 5, 6, 7 leads in a year. So if people that are not giving you those leads, you need to re-examine those relationships. Maybe you're not asking, but the person that cuts your hair, who are they giving their leads to? Attorneys. Do you have attorneys how about your doctor? These people, how about funeral homes? So what about finding
seniors, assisted living, all of those intake people?
What about finding a group of people that you think would be fun? Maybe it's something you like doing that becomes your niche. We've got a guy from Utah, Andrew's from Utah, and he loves biking in the mountains. It's his joy, his jam. And he's got a biking club with like 65 people in it. And guess what? They all know he's in real estate. So he's talking up real estate. He wears a logo on his helmet. I mean, you can have fun and prospect at the same time.
Absolutely. And I love these last few niches that you mentioned here with, non-owner occupied, investors and landlords, probate, divorce, because that kind of ties back in to what you mentioned at the beginning of this part, which is your book of business, right? If part of your book of business is business owners and attorneys and, all these people who like you said, are connected to people who may need to or want to buy or sell their home eventually, your book of business just got that much more valuable, that much more enhanced, and that much more worthwhile for you to maintain, right?
And satisfying and happy.
I want to take it back even further than that, though, to controlling your thinking. I heard this today from somebody. I have lots of buyers, but I got nothing to show them. Well, instead of thinking that that's a liability, let's make it an asset. What can you do with those buyers that can turn them into a way to generate listing leads? I know. Where do you want to live? I'll go talk to every homeowner in that area to let them know I have pre-approved buyers who are ready to make an offer on a home like yours because they've specifically chosen your neighborhood.
And I'll give you one more little technique too. What if you had a listing and there were 7 offers. Now, I know we're not in 2020 anymore, but that still is happening in certain marketplaces. Would you agree, Andrew? You're hearing that? Yeah. So when you're the listing agent, you have the privilege of seeing all 7 offers. How many offers does your seller accept? 1. And that means you know of 6 other buyers. Now, you're not going to lie and say, I am working with these 6 other buyers. But what if you printed up the first 2 pages of their offer and then used a black magic marker to dedact? Is that what that's called? Redact. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, don't dedact it. Redact it. The name, you could even take the price, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. And then what if you used that stack of 6 other offers and talked to people and said, look, here's 6 more buyers that want to live in this area. See, I think there's listings out there. We just got to go out and get them. And the key is knowing what to say and being willing to do it and having the right mindset.
Absolutely. We've gone full circle here. We've wrapped all 3 of these parts together. Change your thinking, have more conversations, develop a niche. And while you develop that niche, make sure that your thinking is good, right? It's kind of a never-ending, wonderful cycle. And I think a great foundation for us to end on here today, because 1, we're running out of time. I know that we could keep talking forever and ever.
That's something I did want to address for just 1 minute more. And thank you for letting us do this, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
And that's, if you're thinking, well, how do I learn all this stuff? How do I figure it out? How do I create accountability? How can I take what I'm doing and amplify it and multiply it and really exponentially get better at what I do? Because this is not the year to be making stuff up. You got to know I've got a path to follow and I've got the greatest advice, because success leaves clues in its wake. And if you use personal experience to get better, by the time you got enough, sometimes you're too old or too tired or too broke to do anything about it. Other people's experience who survived markets like this and thrived, they can point the way. We have 2 flavors of coaching for those of you who are asking those questions. And the first is called one-on-one coaching. Now, that style of coaching is not for everybody, but it's high accountability and it will get you on the right track. The other is what we call our R² coaching program. And by the way, that's $165 a month. Go ahead and compare that to other programs. That's that number I mentioned earlier, 1 listing or sale per person per week on average for 14 straight years. That's what R² coaching is about. So if you want to learn more about that, you go to floydwickman.com.
Check it out.
All right. Well, I've got Floyd Wickman up on the screen there. Thank you very much, Mike, for sharing that. Yeah, go check it out. And in the next couple days here, I think we might have some fun resources that we can share with them, and we can share that link with them in a follow-up email, if that's all right. So
we could even take notes. If you were driving when you were listening or something, we'd be glad to share our notes with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you very much, Mary and Mike, for sharing all this with us today. It's been a wonderful conversation. We've gone so deep and learned so much, and I still feel like we barely scraped the surface with what you 2 have to offer. So we'll have to have you back on the show to go a little deper and learn more from you. It's been amazing. To our audience who's joined us today live, thank you for being here with us live. Please give a shout out to Mike and Mary here. And if you missed the episode, or if you joined late and want to catch up on it, we will have a replay along with hundreds of past episodes on YouTube, on Facebook, on every major podcast platform. Just look for the REDX podcast. We go live every Thursday at 1:30 Mountain Time, 3:30 Eastern. Mike and Mary, any last words?
Buy the list.
Buy the list.
Come back. Thank you, Andrew.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here, and we will see everyone next week.